What's up, everybody? Welcome to our East Coast Spirit Chasers podcast. We got a great show for you today. Lots of really cool evidence. Excited to show you guys. So let's go around and introduce everybody. And I'll start this time with my wife. If you watched the last episode, I introduced everybody but my own wife. So what she did is she started taping pictures of us like on the computer and around the room to remind me that yes, I have a wife and she's on the team too. And so we'll start with Melissa.
Hello.
All right, and we've got Terry, the human EMF detector, world famous Travis Gilbert from the Travis Show, and of course we can't forget about Mr. Dave Legender, the one and only. And my name is Nick. And so today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Phelps Hotel located in Phelps, New York. And this was a location that I didn't even hear about. And the reason we ended up doing it, because our buddy Larry Langdon contacted us. And I know Larry from when I investigated Palmyra Museum in Palmyra, New York, a few years ago. And he follows the team page and stuff like that, and he contacted us because he's associated with Phelps Hotel, and he's like, hey, got this really great location for you guys, come on down and investigate it. And I was like, all right. And he started telling me about this place, and it when we look back at all the investigations that we did for 2020, there was a lot of good ones. We had Lizzie Borden, we had The Conjuring, and for me, this was a location that really stood out for me because there was just so much crazy stuff that happened. The Phelps Hotel, this was a place that was built in the 1850s, and back in the day, this was the place to be. Teddy Roosevelt did a campaign speech there. Uh, as far as murders and stuff like that, there's a bunch of stuff associated with this place. There was two known suicides on the third floor and the basement. There was a guy who died of a heart attack on the third floor, named David, who was hit by a car in 1975 right in front of the hotel. There was a bunch of stuff, evidence that was suggesting that this was a brothel before it was closed in the 70s. There was a bar in the basement that catered to alcohol running, and a former owner, Mrs. Sullivan, she actually had an apartment on the second floor, and even though she didn't die at the Phelps Hotel, her presence is still felt there. And wait till you see some of the evidence that we caught. There was a guy who tried to attack a maid, and the maid ended up shooting this guy in the face, and the guy survived. He's there as well. And then there's also a guy who hung himself on the third floor. So it's just like so much tragedy and stuff in this one place. And the energy is just like off the charts with stuff. And activity wise, I mean, it was just like nonstop stuff going on. So let's give some props to Mr. Larry Langdon. Uh, Very hospitable guy. Came in, he had all this water for us. Most friendliest guy that you can meet. I want to give him a little credit. When we were there, he ended up showing us, letting us hear this EVP that he got, and it's an incredible EVP. It's a Class A, and I'm gonna play this for you guys and give Larry some props. But this was something that he caught, and I'll play that clip for you guys right now.
Oh, that cable.
Larry, can you hold that for me? That's Class A. So clear.
It was like somebody
Full
was literally
sentence.
with you.
I had tipped over the microwave table and I was putting the wheels back on it when it said it.
Wow. So bravo to Larry for capturing that.
Yay, Larry.
Good for Larry. So before we get into some other evidence, I want to put it out there for everybody that's watching. Thank you for tuning in again. If you have a question for any of us or the investigation, anything that you want to know, feel free to drop it in the comment section, and we'll go ahead and we'll answer them throughout the show as questions come in. So I mentioned a little earlier about Mrs. Sullivan, who was a previous owner, and she ended up passing away in the hospital, but she's still staying in her apartment. And I'm gonna play you this clip. In this clip here, this was me and CJ. We were, I guess, in the hallway between her bedroom and the room to go into her, I guess, could be a TV room. And we both heard these disembodied voices. And there was a series of them that we got, but we only have one of them to show you today. Unfortunately, StreamYard is only allowing me to do 200 megs per file. So I had to kind of cut these files down a little bit so that I can get you the good parts of it. Otherwise, we'd have, several minutes worth of clips. Gerardo's asking where the site was located. This was in Phelps, New York. All right, so let me get you this clip here. This is in Mrs. Sullivan's room. Well, in her apartment. Probably wondered what it would be like in the afterlife, and you have the opportunity to tell us. Did you hear that?
That noise sounded like a voice.
I thought it was, I don't know, it sounded like
Yeah.
Let me see if we got that on the recorder.
Cars in the back.
Mrs. Whoa, go in there. Mrs. Sup.
What's it saying?
Mrs.
Go in there.
I got like a really
Mrs.
uneasy feeling in there.
Mrs.
I'm
Go in there.
I'm getting the feels.
As soon
Yeah, I heard it.
Mrs. Sup.
I also thought
Mrs. Sullivan, would you please?
heard that before.
I heard that.
I heard it up to my ears.
Hold on, let's oh, wait a minute. No, the go in there I got was right here. I put this right up where she is, and she said go in there. I think she wants us to go in that room.
I heard.
She wants us out of her bedroom.
Phone talking? Hang on a second.
Mrs. Sullivan? Wow. Mrs. Sullivan? So we were in her bedroom originally, and we started getting these voices that were coming out from the hallway, and that kind of let us out there. And you see at the end of that clip where we said, go in there is the EVP we got. When we went into that room that she wanted us to go in there, you heard the REM pod beeping, like, trying to flank us out of there, get us out of the bedroom. Maybe she just wanted some privacy.
Or it was inappropriate for us to be in her bedroom to begin with.
That's right. So, and as far as the investigation in that area, anybody want to throw any out?
Well, when we did go in the front room, CJ was getting a lot of feelings in the front room. We didn't pick up anything on the 3D Connect, but CJ was definitely identifying and feeling emotions in that front room. And my impression is that's where they probably spent the most time. It was a TV room. Her grandchildren would come over. If she hosted, it's connected to the dining room. I would think it'd be the room that they were in the most.
Yeah, it was a very large room, so I can imagine that there was often people there.
And the apartment, it was a really nice place.
It was
and
beautiful.
if we're going back, several decades, this was it was a beautiful place to be. I mean, it showed you had money. It was a large space. So Mrs. Sullivan was doing pretty good for herself.
I'll say we got very lucky in that investigation with the fact that there was a bar across the street that had a band playing live, and we thought it would ruin our evidence. But because of COVID, they closed down by like 9 o'clock. So it really didn't interfere with our investigation as much as it could have.
Mm-hmm. And I remember we were sitting in that big room and we were doing EVPs and stuff. And I think it was Travis saw Mrs. Sullivan in that other part of the room. And Travis, do you remember seeing her?
Yes.
Do you recall anything about her? Maybe what she was doing, what she was saying?
She was standing there, just watching us.
Just watching? Was she
Yeah.
mad? Were you able to tell like an expression?
I could not tell.
No. Okay.
I do remember she brought up cameras though, so I don't know if she was not thrilled with being filmed.
Mm. That's right. I remember.
Yeah. I remember we asked, but I don't remember what her response was.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how nice that apartment is and how renovated it is when the whole upstairs is kind of like gutted and the
Yeah.
but it very much stood out.
Yeah.
She definitely
All
took a lot of pride.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of her furniture was still in there as well. Her bed was in there.
Yeah.
I think she had like vinyl records were still there too.
That I don't remember.
I think I remember seeing that.
You would.
I would. So I like vinyl records. So moving on, Mrs. Sullivan gave us some great, disembodied voices. We heard a bunch of them in that area. One of the highlights that we got was actually towards the beginning of the evening. We started in the basement, and shortly into our investigation, we were sitting there doing an EVP, and we hear footsteps above us. And there's nobody else there. It's just
Yes.
us and Larry, and we're in the basement. The hotel is completely empty. We had it ourselves. So I've got this clip I'm going to play for you guys. This was the footsteps that we caught, and I'll play that for you right now.
What is that?
What is that?
What is that? There's something upstairs.
Footsteps
Yeah.
just ran close. Is there a cat in here or something?
No.
That was something
Dude,
just
there's
for a
footsteps
cat.
running right up here.
Something
Yeah,
just
we
ran.
all heard that.
Dude,
Did you guys
hear
that?
that?
No,
I
they're.
heard it. Yeah.
What is that?
What is that?
What is that? There's something upstairs.
Footsteps
Yeah.
just ran close. Is there
Yeah. So, that kind of set things for the basement. We had a bunch of stuff going on there. And one of the things that happened was something with Melissa. You want to go ahead and tell everybody?
Well, like you mentioned earlier, during the history, there was the little boy who was hit by the car outside of the hotel. He was staying there with his family. I think that they stayed there quite often. But at one point, we were doing a spirit box session, and we were sitting around. There was toys on the floor. Some were ours, some were left by other investigators. And on my left side, it was really cold, like by my face, on my arm. And it felt like at one point, I think Travis had mentioned that there was a little boy sitting in the chair next to me. The chair next to me was empty. It just had some of our equipment on it. And then it felt like he was holding my hand, and I was afraid to move because if he's feeling comfortable enough with me to try and hold my hand, I didn't want to scare him off or just disrupt him. And Joe, I believe it was Joe, I think, had the thermal cam, and he was saying that my left side was actually showing colder than my other side.
I think Larry was the one that had the thermal
It was Larry.
Yeah.
Oh, and
It was about 8 degrees difference in temperature.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And I remember when I looked over at her arm, you could see the goosebumps, the hair standing up on her arm. Like there was something there that was affecting her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember trying to connect because we found out the boy was born in 1970, which I was born in 1970, and his name was David, and my name was David.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we were trying to connect there. There's been a shadow figure I've noticed behind Nick and Melissa a couple times. It's morphing between white and black. It almost appears to be on 4 legs, and it walks behind you.
Is that spooky coming?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's been walking back and forth behind you both.
Oh, has he? I haven't even
I
realized.
didn't notice either.
Well, at least he walked behind you. Mine walked right in front of my screen.
Now, just so people that are watching know, we try and debunk everything, and we debunked on the 3D Connect, we thought we had something for a while in the basement and then found out it was a Christmas tree in storage. So we debunked it pretty quick.
Mhm.
We always look to debunk.
I also tried to look for any information I could on this little boy, but I was not able to find anything. So I don't know if since it happened in 1975, it was just too early for the internet, but I found nothing. No obituary, no article, no nothing.
It might have been sensitive to the parents with a 5-year-old that they maybe not wanted any notification out.
Very possible.
And going back to what Dave was talking about, how we debunked the Christmas tree, that was with the SOS camera. And even though it's a really useful tool for the paranormal investigations, a lot of times you can get false positives where it'll map out a figure to something that maybe resembles a figure, but it's just, there's nothing going on there. You want to see some sort of movement to it instead of just occupying that space. So that's why we ask, can you raise an arm, move a leg, move somewhere else? And that's how we'll know if it's something else. So always be mindful of what is behind where that thing is being mapped out.
Right. With the Connect, it tends to pick up furniture or posts, wall posts, or you know what I mean, like the posts in the middle of the room.
Yep. So we have a question from Glenn Morgan, who's asking, have we ever been to Belgrove Plantation? Been there lots of times. It's in King George,
now that you mentioned it.
Terry, you want to go ahead?
No, go ahead. I mean, well, now that they mention it, we've never been there, but that's our next investigation. So on
February 20th.
February 20th, we'll be investigating Belgrove Plantation.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't. Do you have history on it? I know it was built in, I want to say 1668. So I don't know much more than that yet.
My room has a fireplace.
There you go. And of course, we've got the entire place to ourselves, so we'll be, of course, going live as always from our investigations. So make sure you check that out. Caleb Bryan says we should go to Myrtle Plantation. Definitely some activity over there. Great history as well. And we were actually supposed to go to Louisiana 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's when the hurricane came and it flooded everything out. We had to do an emergency trip to Savannah because everybody took off of work. We made all these plans, and we had to do a last-minute just ditch effort to construct a paranormal trip in like a day.
3 days. We booked everything. Yeah.
Everything, yeah.
So that sucked. I mean, Myrtle Plantation was a spot that we had booked originally, and unfortunately, the hurricane washed out our plans for that.
I do have to say, however, though, I would have loved to go to Myrtle Plantation and some of the other locations we had set for New Orleans. But Savannah, Georgia was calling us. So I don't think it's
no coincidence.
No coincidence. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't think it's any coincidence that we ended up in Savannah.
Well,
and we made
our mediums always say there's no such thing as a coincidence. So.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And we ended up on the radio in Savannah, and who would have known that would have happened? That ended up being a last-minute thing.
A lot of amazing things happened there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Savannah was just a good trip all around, and we picked up Molly from Savannah.
There's a whole story on that. We'll get into that, but you can check that on our Chasing Answers
YouTube
episode.
series.
Yes, that's on YouTube. So going back to the Phelps, when we do an investigation, we usually have Missy, who's our resident psychic, kind of do a read on the location, and right away she came up with the third floor. You want to talk about what she was saying?
Well, she was saying how the third floor wasn't that great, and it was because of everything that had happened. It was the maid who was being attacked who shot the guy that did it. There was suicides. There were men who were not so fond of women there. Am I missing anything? I'm not.
There's a bunch of stuff going on.
Yeah,
in the third floor.
Let's be clear, the third floor looked a lot more ominous than Mrs. Sullivan's apartment. Now you have some gutted walls and.
You okay?
took on a whole nother vibe going up those
What did
stairs.
she say?
Mrs. Sullivan's apartment was still livable, whereas the rest of the hotel, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got another clip to play for everybody. This was on the second floor. Was it second floor? Second floor it was. Which is just a little ways away from Mrs. Sullivan's apartment. And we had the paranormal music box, and we like to play the 1 yes, 2 no beep game with the spirits because we get legit answers. And so we have a clip of that, and we've got some interesting responses. But at the end of that, at the end of this clip, we do ask about which floor there's something bad at, and wait to see the response that we got. So let me play this clip for you guys right now. Where is it? Here we go. Can you do 1 yes, 2 for no? And we'll ask you some questions? Yes.
Or no.
How many spirits are in this room? Is it more than one? Yes. Are we safe here? 1 yes, 2 no. Yes. Some. Is the man who hanged himself a nice person? No. That was a clear 2.
That was clear, and that was a clear answer.
Is there anything that you're afraid of in this hotel? 1 yes, 2 no. Yes. What floor is it? Can you do 1 beep per floor?
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3, and that was going back to the 3rd floor, where just all this stuff happened: suicides, people getting shot, hangings. That's why we were getting so much hostility towards the women in one of the sections. So we sent Harry and Melissa into the room where we were told there's a guy there that doesn't like women. So what do? We put our
Send the ladies in.
send the women in and see what we get. So you ladies, you want to talk about some of the stuff that happened there?
Well, I do know I believe it was EVPs. And I was trying to conduct an EVP session, and one of the responses was, get the whores out of here. So they were not very thrilled with us being there, and no matter what I would ask, that would be the same response. So to try and see if anything would be different, Terry and I actually left the room to see if the guys would get anything. And were you able to get anything different when we were out of the room?
The most memorable one was get them out of here. That was an EVP that we got. Other than that, it was you guys got the majority of it. A lot of negativity. Get the whores out of here. You're a whore. That's the kind of EVPs that the ladies got. So
They really liked us.
So another thing that happened was, including Travis, who is not there.
He's here. He just wants to get me a cord.
Okay. Well, Terry, do you want to set this up for Travis? Travis can see spirits. He can communicate with them. He has a spirit friend named Eric.
Eric's here, by the way.
Eric is there. Okay. So Eric communicates with him regularly. He'll go and do recon on a location. Be like, hey, you really should check out this place, or watch out for this place. And so he saw a floating head. So Terry, do you want to go into it a little bit?
I'm pretty certain that was on the 2nd or 3rd floor. The 2nd floor.
The head was on the 2nd.
I'm pretty sure there was 2 heads. I want to say there was a man and a woman. Do you remember?
I do believe that there were 2 heads.
There was
well.
2 heads.
Yeah.
That he saw. Do you remember anything about them, Trav?
They were just floating.
They were
But
just floating.
I think he saw them on 2 separate occasions. Like he saw them near the stairs, and then he
Mhm.
saw them again later, in the hallway, or vice versa. But I remember him seeing them twice.
Mm.
Yeah, do you remember? I'm gonna say he doesn't remember.
Well, I know one of the things we were thinking about, a floating head. Could this have been maybe one of the people that tried to hang themselves, maybe snap their head off hanging? Is that why maybe there's a floating head? Or could it be, the guy who got shot in the head? Maybe his head was blown off. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. Maybe
Maybe he didn't have the energy to manifest the rest of his body.
exactly. So, I mean, just seeing a floating head, and it's interesting because sometimes Travis, he sees some weird stuff. Like at Haldeman, I remember he saw a guy who was decapitated.
Mm-hmm.
And, for Travis, we kind of try and keep him calm, and we say, you know what, think of that as like a Halloween costume.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get scared of it. You don't want to show any fear. You don't want to, give them any type of fuel. And that's why Travis is such a badass paranormal investigator, because we get into all these situations and he's just like stone faced, like
Barely
nothing fazed
phased.
me. Yeah, like I'm used to this. That's
At
why he's
Edgewood, remember
Edgewood.
at Edgewood, he saw the girl with the broken neck.
Yeah. Yep. And I remember that I followed her, and she was annoyed that I was following her, just snapping away
Yes.
pictures. But I ended up getting a mist of the lady with the broken neck. So Travis is always a key contributor to our investigations. So Tony Plastovsky, I hope I'm saying your name right. Uh, when you investigate a place like Phelps Hotel that is more obscure than a place like Jenny Wade House, do you prepare differently when there's not much history known about it?
I would say it's not much different. I mean, now Phelps Hotel, we didn't have much history, but when we got there, Larry was well prepared, and Larry had a lot of history for us when we first got there, which is unusual for a host of a location to give us that much history. So props to Larry again. But typically, it's pretty much the same. I mean, we just go in and do our thing, and sometimes we get some stuff from the history, and sometimes we get new stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
And a
it's a
lot,
mixture.
and a lot of times we'll go to a location like when we did the Princess Street haunting, and we didn't know much of anything there,
Mm-mm.
like nothing. Just this place is haunted, and we came out of there knowing that there was an old lady there that went crazy, and I think there was something with a guy who got hit by a motorcycle.
Yep.
Yes.
Outside. You guys remember?
Yes.
I don't remember the full story, but I mean,
Yeah.
just asking basic EVP questions and stuff like that. Sometimes you'll get stuff like Princess Street. You know, we were told, she went crazy, stuff like that, and then from there we can build on questions and try and piece, the puzzle together of what's actually going on at the location. So.
Because crazy could mean, depending on whose definition of crazy you're going with. Your definition of crazy could be different than mine. I'm thinking maybe she's just got Alzheimer's or dementia, or something's caused her to behave a certain way, and she's not really crazy.
The definition of crazy is different when you apply it to when it's being used, because a lot of way to dismiss women's emotion back in the 1800s was that the woman was unstable, that she was having a breakdown. When she was really normal, she was being labeled or identified as being crazy, and
Right.
could be perfectly normal and reacting to something.
Postpartum depression back then was crazy.
Yep.
And another thing, going back to Tony's question, is thankfully we have resources like Missy that we can show a photo of a location, and she can connect and meet various spirits there and kind of give us a heads up, like, hey, I ran into this guy here. This guy's pissed off about this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's information that we can use to build up questions and and get more information.
Or sometimes fill in the gaps during the investigation as well.
Mhm.
It
So
will also indicate sometimes before we get to places like you're going to get a lot of activity in this room or that
Oh, yeah.
room. You know, they
Mhm.
want you here. So
yeah.
Yep.
it's almost like having like an Amy Allen on the phone, and she's telling you where the action's going to be.
And even if Missy can't make the investigation, she's on there on the live feed when we go live, and she's like, "I see this person here. He's standing by Terry or whatever."
What I
And,
love personally was we didn't have Missy one time online. Travis identified something at the Farnsworth house, described it. We then pull Missy in. It wasn't done in live, but Missy comes in and she describes exactly what Travis had just described. So it validates him.
mhm,
I love validation.
Yep.
we sure do. That's why we do this paranormal thing. This is not just
validation. Yeah.
it's
And
not
just to let everybody know,
thrills.
even though Missy's not with us on this broadcast, she's watching us, and she actually responded to Glenn. Glenn commented something about feeling things, and Missy responded to him that he's somewhat of an empath. So she's watching us, and she's interacting with our viewers.
Shout out to Missy. Yay. So, but let's go back to the third floor where a lot of the action was. This time we were trying to interact with the spirit who had hanged himself in one of the rooms, and we were told originally it was a corner bathroom area, and we didn't really get much in there until we got out of that room and we caught something on the Connect cam, which was kind of near the
Stairs.
area. So we've got this here, another clip queued up for everybody. And here we go. Can you show yourself again in the doorway? Was there somebody hanging? Oh, there's something there. But see, that right there is
The beam.
okay.
Oh, you see how it's moving?
Originally, I was gonna say, okay, no, that's
there we
that's
go,
a
there
fucking
we go.
figure.
Look at him right there.
Yeah.
He's gone. He's over
I
here
know.
now.
Originally, I thought maybe it was the beam, but then this thing spread its legs out and it was like climbing up that thing.
Well, this keeps going off, so.
Now let's take that a step further because we've gotten things on the 3D Connect. That was the longest 3D Connect. That kept presenting itself and representing itself.
Mhm.
It might disappear for 30 seconds and then it would be back for 3 solid minutes. Then it would disappear for a couple minutes. Then it would be back. The feet were always off of the ground, which implied hanging. You could see the legs moving back and forth, but off the ground. And it was responding. Like you have multiple devices going off at the same time. It was interesting that he didn't present himself in the bathroom where he hung himself, but presented himself in the next room.
So let me ask you this, Dave.
Mhm.
Since this figure kept showing up and doing this whole thing, do you think that maybe that could have been residual, that we were seeing a loop of this because it kept repeating itself?
It's possible it's residual, or he just wanted to present. And we were there talking to him, asking him questions. And, with empaths there, he might want them to feel his sorrow. He might want them to experience and see what he went through. If I remember correctly, I thought we got something that said he had immediate regret after he did it.
Yeah.
But I thought we got an EVP maybe in the bathroom, and then the rest of the activity was in the room right next to it.
Mhm.
And it's usually, the fact that it kept coming back, we had really debunked that it wasn't those beams. It became obvious that there was a figure there. There were arms, there were legs. The feet would dangle at times. The feet never reached the ground. And it just looked like it was in a hanging position. And when I believe we were asking questions and we were getting information back that indicated that it was him.
Mhm. And if you listen to what I'm talking about, when we saw this thing on the beam, I wasn't sold at first that this
Yeah.
was something.
I
You
never
know,
would be. I would always double check with that, but that one,
right, because this goes back to what I mentioned earlier about the SOS camera, that you'll get that false positive sometimes, and you have this beam, and there's something, kind of there, but when this figure came off that beam and started kind of moving, kind of crawling up, the staircase, then I was like, okay, now we've got something here.
well, and that
Excuse
was
my language there. I hope there's no children watching.
wow, and that was the direct area where Travis saw one of the floating heads too.
Yes, yes, it was.
Whether it's his head or not, somebody hung themselves. Are they
Mhm.
representing their head? I don't know if it's him or not, but could have been.
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah.
So Glenn asked a question, and he said, "Do you believe spirits become attached to their home or locations?" I do believe. And Missy actually answered it in the text. She said, "With my experience, a spirit can be attached to a location even if they haven't passed in the particular location. A lot of times they pass nearby and they roam to certain houses or buildings and they will attach itself, but they also sometimes will go back to their own homes or attach to certain objects as well." And, I mean, the way that I see it, if I was a spirit and I've got nothing, where am I going to go? I'm going to go to familiar locations to me, places that maybe meant something. I'll go to my house, I'll maybe travel all over the place. That's probably one of the things I do.
And if that begs the question, how are they traveling like that, and how are they doing that? I think everyone here believes in portals and
Mhm.
believes that they've established ways to get to certain locations by using portals. And we've found portals in many places, like mirrors, closets seem to be a big place for portals, but there's definitely a transport unit there in that dimension.
Right.
And I think we've also through some of our known spirits per se, Danny, you know, they can be at multiple places at one time, correct?
As
Nick?
Yeah.
Danny once told us, he could be in 3 conscious places at once. He could be in Vegas, Paris, and here talking to us right now. So
Right.
3 conscious entities at one time.
Crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard to wrap your mind around.
Yeah.
We're giving our secrets away from our known friendly spirits.
Look, I'll tell you right now, it freaks me out. You always, when you look at a spider and you're like, how do they know how to move all 8 legs? It's one of those things that you can't wrap your head around yet.
Yeah.
How does a
Mhm.
shark see with eyes on the side of his head
Yeah.
in both directions at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
There's crazy.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
We also got some activity in the bar area. If you guys remember, we were role playing, talking to an
Mhm.
imaginary bartender, and asking for drinks, stuff like that. If I remember correctly, we had a bartender spirit there that was playing back with us.
Mhm.
Asking for a drink, and I'm pretty sure we got an EVP. It says something like along the lines of, "Oh, what do you want? What can I get you?" So doing some of these role plays sometimes it looks silly sometimes, and I'm sure they know that we're just joking around, but maybe it triggers them to be like, you know what, let me just interact and play along.
Or maybe they don't know that we're just role playing.
Well,
Maybe
that
they're
too.
still seeing the whole area as they remember it,
Maybe they see us as just customers coming up to the bar and they're responding.
and we're just dressed weird.
But role playing's always fun, especially when Dave is role playing and he's wounded. Dave, you want to go into that and that amazing question that you ask that gets brought up somehow at every investigation?
including my birthday.
Yeah.
Validary.
Well,
The dying question.
there's a lot of questions that we like to ask. And look, I'm a history guy. I'm a history teacher. I like to do the historical background on places, and I'm very in touch with the Civil War. I used to do Civil War reenactments. You've probably been to Gettysburg like 20 something times. And when we were in Gettysburg, we had identified some doctors. We knew at the location that it had been a field hospital during the battle. There were blood stains on the floorboards in the front. Travis believed he had saw a doctor in one of the rooms. So I know Joe had pretended to be wounded and tried to communicate. So the next best thing was for me to put on my Civil War objects. I have the jacket and the hat from reenacting, and we think it could be used as a trigger. So they actually pulled a saw off the wall. They found an old saw, and they brought me in, and I was supposed to be wounded, asking the doctor for help. And I asked for help. I said I was wounded. I asked for help, and then I immediately went into my normal EVP mode. I only stayed in character for about 20 seconds, and before you know it, I went to one of my fail-safe questions on EVPs, and I asked, "Do you remember who your next president or your last president was?" And the reason it probably clicked in my head, in Gettysburg, we have gotten EVPs where we said, "Do you know who's president now?" And we've had spirits say Lincoln, Southerners and Northerners, those that hated and those that liked him. And I must have just been thinking, like, let's see if this guy says Lincoln. Well, I never heard the end of it because I literally went from saying, I need help, doctor, I'm wounded. Who was the last president you remember? And I have not heard the last of it since then, and it made my birthday cake and a T-shirt and everything else. So I will always think twice before I start asking about questions going forward. One of the reasons I use that question is I want to see contextually if the spirit is relating to their time or our time, because we have asked older spirits who's president, and we've gotten the answer Trump. So sometimes they're in the moment and they can answer the question in the moment, and other times they go back to, so we got very careful. We said, who was your last president? And at one time we had one person say Kennedy and responded after that, head. And Nick and I looked at each other and said, Kennedy got shot in the head. And we immediately looked at each other after that. So, it's a question that could take you in a lot of different directions, and it was probably on the top of my mind. But the joke was that I stayed in character for about 20 seconds, and I'm like, enough of this. This is ridiculous. But, I always wonder why we try and fool ghosts with I'll put a uniform on and fight when I'm wounded. Like, ghosts have brains, and they know us before we get there. If they can name us and they can name our occupation, I don't know why Nick thought going in a wheelchair down
that was wonderful.
That he could portray to be an old Ukrainian woman that needed help, and that the ghost wouldn't figure out that this is malarkey. So, I don't like to try and fool them or play. Like I was in character for 20 seconds, and I was like this. I felt foolish pretty quick and switched.
You had the towel wrapped around your wound and everything.
You spent more time getting me ready for it than I get it. So. You guys wanted a movie, and I treated it like a commercial. I get it. So
there you go.
But a lifetime of entertainment, Dave.
Great. Oh yeah, that's gonna haunt me forever.
Yeah. Maggie Dunn, our favorite Maggie Dunn, says, "Is that where you caught the Connect picking up the hanging in the closet?" No, that was actually on the staircase, which I believe was outside of that room.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah, that's correct.
Glenn Morgan, have you ever did an investigation on haunted bridges and roads?
Yes.
We did the bridge in Asheville.
Helen's Bridge.
Helen's
Bridge in Asheville.
Well,
and then we got
Gettysburg. We do the Sachs Bridge and Suicide
Bridge, which is Suicide Bridge is actually called Eisenhower.
Mm-hmm.
The Eisenhower Bridge.
You want to talk about Helen's Bridge?
Well, Helen's Bridge. I don't remember the entire story because it's been a while.
Fire.
Her baby died in a fire.
Yes, her house had caught fire, and I think she had ran outside, and I think she was telling the firefighters, "My baby's in there, my baby's in there." But they weren't able to save the baby. And then I think she was just so full of guilt and sadness that she had jumped off this bridge, and it said that she runs around this bridge saying, "Have you seen my baby? Where is my baby?"
And the whole story just sounds like an urban legend, but we went there and we were live for Ghost Box session. And if you go through our videos, watch this feed that we did, because we confirmed everything that she said. This was not an urban legend. We've got her, talking about her baby, about the fire. So, I mean, it was just awesome to get that type of validation.
I believe Eric was trying to talk to her to calm her down because she was just so frantic that she wasn't really listening.
Yeah.
That could be residual.
Yeah.
Now, look, now he mentioned roads, and I will say I've been, I think it's called Clinton Road, which is in Weird, New Jersey. We didn't investigate it, but that's like the famous one in New Jersey, if that's what we're referring to. Nick, you got a photo that's on our site on one of those bridges in Gettysburg, right?
Well, I have it at Sachs Bridge. I caught a soldier floating on the side of the bridge, and then we also caught a. It looks like a guy and a horse in a mist at Suicide Bridge, also known as Eisenhower Bridge. Sachs Bridge, we never really got much stuff there at all. We've been there several
Many a time.
times. It's just usually dead for us.
Now,
Well, I think one time.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Besides bridges and roads, there are other things. Like my first investigation was a rail house. We have an elementary school coming up that we're going to do in Ohio. So, bridges, roads, schools, houses, sanitariums, hospitals, prisons. It's all out there on the list, and we're knocking them off one at a time. But go ahead, Terry.
No, I was going to say one time at Sachs Bridge, before we were on the team, we were investigating with Gettysburg Paranormal, and we had 2 soldiers that on Sachs Bridge. The only time we've gotten confirmation of like any real communication, 2 soldiers were hanged on Sachs Bridge because they ran. I don't. What's the correct terminology, Dave? Well, they
AWOL.
Yeah, they went AWOL. They tried to leave
during the Civil War. They skedaddled.
Yeah, and they were hung on the bridge. That's the only time Travis and I have ever had communication on the bridge.
Mm-hmm. Now, Suicide Bridge, which is also Eisenhower Bridge, I've gotten a bunch of stuff there. I remember we took my friend Kevin and his wife there, and this was like their first paranormal go around. And when his wife Maria was going over the bridge, she started like choking. So we pulled her back to the other side of the bridge, and then she was okay. After that, she ended up getting these marks on her back, like lower neck
like
area,
just under her neck, right above her back.
Mm-hmm. Another time we were there, we had the Connect Cam, and we were just panning it along the bridge on the top, and we actually caught figures hanging from the top of the bridge, which was incredible. And when we do ghost box stuff, we're constantly being warned of something really negative down the path.
Really bad.
And the voices that come through, don't go there, stay away. When Missy came, she was like, no, we can't stay here. And the last time we were there, this was a couple months ago.
Months ago?
It was last month. It was December.
Right. Remember, we were there, we were getting activity, and then we started hearing like people in the woods and stuff like that. And I think it was pretty late, and they were getting like this vibe, like they were probably doing something maybe ritualistic.
Yeah, CJ was getting not good vibes from it.
But he ended up puking.
Yeah, he puked right next to the car.
Yeah, like he was like, something is wrong. We need to get out of here. And
that's when I had to yell at you, Maggie.
That's a big problem with a lot of locations is when teenagers get word of it and hear about it, they want to go there and do some type of satanic thing, and they think it's fun and games, and they open up places to negativity.
I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I have to say, every time we go to Suicide Bridge, I always back in so I can get out quickly if we need to. So I remember when we pulled into that location and you pulled in to use your headlights as light. I was like, what the hell is he doing? Because you should have backed in so we can get out quickly if we need to.
Well, I figured I'd give us some light. So
yeah. Well, you gave us some light.
I sure did, didn't I? But I like Missy's emoji. It's like a vomiting emoji with Suicide Bridge,
yeah,
and that's
she does not like it.
That basically sums that up.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we hear. Maggie says, "Is it similar to Maggie's Bridge in Woodland, Delaware?"
I don't know that bridge.
I don't know that bridge.
Not really familiar with Maggie's Bridge, but I mean Delaware is not far from us, so I mean that might be, a spot that we can check on the way to something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's see. Point Lookout, Civil War prison camp. Yes, we have been there. That's in Scotland, Maryland, I believe.
Yes.
That's where we were camping.
Yeah.
Yes.
2 years ago, 2 Septembers ago.
And that's where, we were outside of the cabin and Travis kept seeing something across the path there. And I started snapping photos and we caught this man standing there in the woods watching us.
It's on the website if you want to check the photo out.
It is on
Right.
the website. Then is that the one that was there? I think there was 2 pictures from that weekend. There was the one of the man watching us, and then there's another one that looked like an Indian in full headdress.
Right.
I believe they're both on the page.
Yeah. So all the photos that we talk about that we get, like the Sachs Bridge, the soldier that's on the side of the bridge floating, the guy on the horse in this mist thing, that's all on eastcoastspiritchasers.com. Definitely check that out.
Glenn, we have a crybaby bridge near us too.
So let's see. So a couple other things that we wanted to announce was that we booked 2 new locations. And one of them is Wildwood Sanitarium in Salamanca, New York. And the other one was Poasttown Elementary in Middletown, Ohio. And
So stoked.
she's got a thing for schools she's been wanting to do. But I mean, these were 2 spots that I've been wanting to go to for so long, and to have them both booked made me super happy. But Wildwood Sanitarium, it opened in 1906 as a sanitarium and a bathhouse, and then it ended up becoming a holistic healing center. They practiced osteotherapy, and they treated people with addictions, but anyone that had like something serious or contagious, they would turn them away. Eventually, it became a tuberculosis clinic, I believe in 1923. And then after that, it ended up turning into apartments, and it was run by multiple families. There's a spirit on there on the 3rd floor that's very aggressive. He pushes, he scratches, and it's an entity that calls himself Red, and I guess he oppresses the different spirits there. That's some of the information that I got just from doing a little bit of research. I haven't seen much about this character named Red, but that's what mediums have come up with when they've investigated this place. And Poasttown Elementary, it opened up in 1937. It's near railroad tracks, and within a mile of the location, there's been multiple train wrecks with casualties that have been so bad that it's been considered one of the worst railroad accidents in Ohio history. 24 people died, another 35 people seriously injured. There's 54 classrooms in this place. And I think that's going to be a key spot for Dave, being that he's a teacher. And last time we were in a classroom that was at Rolling Hills Asylum, we had Dave go up and do roll call. And Dave, you want to talk about what we got with that?
Yeah, that was great. They told me to go to the front of the room. They said, Dave, you're the teacher, teach. And I hadn't prepared anything. Teachers don't like to go in without a lesson plan, but I did a fake roll call, and I just named some names taking attendance, and we got 2 EVPs. One said present, and the other one said he never called my name.
Yeah.
Definitely connection to that room right away.
Yeah. And with Poasttown, there's also a famous spirit there, because a lot of these locations, they have, a couple of them. But one of the most notable ones is a spirit by the name of Sarah. And she was playing one day near the stairwell on the top floor, and she ended up, I don't know if she was pushed, or she just fell over, but she fell to the bottom to her death. And people have heard her giggling. She touches people. There's been full body apparitions. This is a location that's been on so many different paranormal shows. It's going to be a really exciting one for us. So the final thing that I want to go over is some evidence for you guys, and this is something that's been going on Terry's house. Terry's always got activity. She's a very, very interesting person because she's so open, and the spirits just love her. They just want to come home with her, and
Is that
so
what it is?
I'm guessing so. But you wanna start this off? Let everybody know what that's about.
So for the last 2 weeks, I've been having activity in the middle of the night as I sleep. So what it feels like to me is as I sleep, I hear like a almost like a spray bottle. When you spray a spray bottle, like a I'm sure that sounds terrible,
How
but
does
you
it
know
go? How does it go again?
it goes like you know what I mean, right? So with this, I get sprayed in the face with water.
There's
I
definitely a
don't
dirty joke there, but go ahead.
no. Well, so I don't know where the water's coming from.
We'll
Like
call it
there's
water.
nothing there. What's that?
We'll call it water.
Yeah, right.
Joke is
There's
the
there's there's nothing there. There's nobody there. But I do have a camera in my bedroom.
Oh, you're a freak. Why you got cameras in the bedroom, Terry?
Yeah.
Let's just
No,
roll the clip then. I just backed you into the corner there.
right. So anyway, it hasn't bothered me. I don't feel afraid of it. I don't feel scared. It just doesn't really bother. It's annoying, but my brother just died on Christmas Eve. So I figured maybe he's learning some tricks in the afterlife. He's hanging out with Danny, Missy's best friend, who died a couple years ago in a car accident. And Danny's teaching him the tricks of the afterlife. So my assumption was maybe it's Danny and my brother, and it didn't scare me. So a couple nights ago, it was the first time I really looked at the clock when it happened. So I knew when to go back and look at the camera. So I sent Nick a clip today of what it actually looks like. You don't see anything spray my face, but you'll see. Roll the clip.
You'll see her reacting. Let's
You'll
roll
see me
it.
reacting. Yeah.
Let's go to the videotape.
So for about the last 2 weeks, I've been getting interesting activity when I sleep. Usually happens sometime in the middle of the night. It sounds like a spray bottle, and then I get squirted with water in the face. It's been going on for about 2 weeks. I don't feel threatened, obviously, because I typically just wipe it off and go back to sleep. Quite honestly, I'm thinking maybe it's my brother playing jokes as he learns some tricks in the afterlife. I'm not sure. But don't mind my room. It's been 5 months and I'm still unpacking boxes. But here's the video clip from Saturday night. So you can see me rub my face. Now in just a couple seconds, you're going to see something over here on this side of the screen. That's it. See it there? See it? See it? So it's like 3 lights, almost like something went from my side of the bed and walked around to the other side. So let me play that again for you. There, I rub my face. And then right over here. See it? There and there. What do you think?
That was a slow-mo version of it at the end there. But I mean, you see you see it brighten, and then it dims, and then it moves a little bit, brightens again, and it happens 3 times. So she gets sprayed in the face, and the spirit kind of just walks around, and it's like peace.
So I'm curious if Missy's still watching. Missy, what do you see? She just commented with kind of googly eyes.
I saw
She's still watching.
sneaking in.
So yeah. All right. So other than that, thanks for watching us, and we'll be back next Monday with some interesting stuff. We appreciate everybody who asked questions, and thank you again for joining us.
Have a great night.
Bye bye.
Thank you.